Hello, welcome to yesterday's Airlines. Over the Easter break, there have obviously been a couple of major announcements, one by Gemini and the other by NG Models. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the NG Models announcements in April, which will be for models that are appearing in May, but probably almost certainly some will also be slipping over to June and July, because that has been the recent pattern with NG sets. And the reason that they've been slipping over is just because of the vast number of models that they are announcing. So in previous months, they've been announcing 30 models. This month, there are 39 announcements from NG, plus a couple of Buchanan models as well. So there are 41 models to get through in this video, which is quite unbelievable. It is a large set. Now, just because there are 41 doesn't necessarily mean they're all 41 completely unique liveries, and as in previous months, some of these are versions of models that have been released previously, and sometimes even in this set there are 2 or 3 models which are similar. So it's not really 41, but if you were really saying that you wanted to buy every individual model, there'd be 41 to buy, but that's not really the way to look at it, I would say. Now, there's always some back chat associated with these large announcements, and it is fair in a sense because NG here are announcing almost the same number of models this month as Phoenix and Gemini and jcwings combined. In fact, probably more than all 3 of those combined. So it is a large set. Is that something that should be concerning you, the collector? I can't really see why. I agree that it is a little annoying sometimes when models slip across months, like the Corsair 747 SP, which still hasn't quite appeared, but looks like it probably will next month, or at the end of this month. But it's just a little bit of administration. Everyone on this call should know where DEMA is, the model database, and then keep an eye on what's up there. I don't feel the need to pre-order models, and I probably wouldn't recommend you do either. So don't put cash out there in the market before the models appear, especially when you don't know what they're going to look like. So aside from it being a bit of an admin, keeping an eye on what has been announced and what has been released, outside of that, I don't think there's anything to really worry about. You could argue that it's potentially bad for NG themselves releasing this many models, and then maybe they're going to overdo it and go out of business. But hey, we don't have any control over what NG do month to month, and can only trust that they know what they're doing. And considering the global situation, if the Chinese ever start feeling adventurous and decide to take a tourism visit across the Formosa Strait to Taiwan, then you can kiss 400 scale models goodbye. So maybe it's just as well that they're pumping out lots of models in advance, because you never know when this merry-go-round is going to stop anyway. So yeah, that's my view. Hey, feel free to disagree, but I don't see any problem with it, except that it makes doing these videos a bit of a nightmare. So I'm going to try and be quicker with this video. The good thing about NG videos is you know that the majority of the molds here are top class. The only mold here which I would say is not top class is the 777 molds. Everything else is top of the pile, pretty much when it comes to looking at the molds that are in use. Even the 777s are decent, though not quite as decent as those from JC Gemini or AV400 perhaps. So it's going to be a good set of molds. NG generally are good when it comes to printing detail and colors and the artwork. So there's usually not too much to complain about. And this is one brand you know that you're most of the time going to get what is on the artwork that they show. So there's enough trust here, I feel, with this, and that's not always the case with all of the brands out there, as I'm sure you know. So we'll get into these releases and try and get through them quickly in a second, but obviously please check out yesterday's Airlines. Subscribe to this channel if you don't already. There's always lots of content coming up. Check me out at Instagram, where I post regularly, and am really enjoying the different feel for the image posting site there. Obviously I'm on Facebook too, both at Yester Airlines for Instagram and Facebook. And yesterdaysairlines.com is the central location for most of the work I do. I've recently reorganized the homepage, so that goes through all of the different areas of the site, from looking at aviation history and liveries and that kind of thing, moving down to the 400 scale models themselves, the best molds, mold comparisons, the histories of the molds and detailed rankings, individual models. There's tons of stuff on there. There's a lot more than that, mold samples, and so on and so forth. There's lots of content on the site, even down into smaller scales like 600. So hope you enjoy this content, and let's get on and check out what NG have announced for the next coming month. Now, despite what some say, I'm not all about fawning praise for NG. I've been a little disappointed with some of the release sets that they've been coming out recently with, and this one's not really any different. It's the new NG, it's the NG which is all aimed at contemporary modern aircraft and not very much aimed at anything that predates 2015. And looking through this list, you've got that same pattern. So yeah, we've got 39 NG model announcements here, and one is a TriStar and one is an SP. And there's no TU-154s, there's no TU-204s. You know, none of the A320s or 737s are particularly old. So yeah, this is an ongoing kind of issue, but it's probably not an issue for most people because they collect newer models. But it is a slight annoyance from my perspective. But hey, it's their company. I guess they get to release what they think is going to sell. And obviously, when you've got so many models here, there's always going to be something that piques your interest, even if it's not hundreds of the releases. And that's, I guess, what I've been saying to people who are complaining about the number of releases here. It's like, well, there are 39 models here, but there's probably only 3 or 4 that I'd be interested in. And I imagine that for most people, that's the same. So all you're really doing, or NG are really doing here, is giving people a greater opportunity, in my opinion, to get the models that they want, because there's probably only 2 or 3 that most people will be interested in each set. So it's not exactly flooding their bank balance and every month. I don't see any greed here myself. Anyway, into the models, and we'll start with the Airbuses. As always, there's a selection of baby buses here, and only a single A350 and no A330s at all this month. So we'll start off with a pair of A318s. These are in the colours of LAN Airlines, CC, CZR and CZJ. One of them is wearing 80th anniversary colours. None of these have been made before. It's a good area, a fertile area for NG. A318s have been making quite a few decent ones. This is the first time that we're seeing a Pratt & Whitney A318 release in 400 scale, as far as I'm aware. LAN were the only airline to take PW-powered A318s. So these are really cool. They're quite obscure, I guess. And I think these are both really excellent releases. Nice scheme, unusual aircraft. Hey, these ones are calling supersonic. They've never been made in the scale before. So these two both nice and easily can get up there into the world of supersonic. Next up, we are looking at a Jetstar A320, and there was one of these announced last month, as you may remember. This one is VHVFF. This one has got the Jetstar.com titles as opposed to the Jetstar with a star, more updated titles. So this is the second, I think, of the Jetstar schemes. The older scheme had very small titles. It's nice, it's attractive. There was one last month, it's 90% the same. This has been made a few times before by Aero Classics and Phoenix. Both of those are perfectly reasonable efforts, I guess. But obviously they both have their issues and they're both quite old too. So yeah, this is going to be a decent release. It's going to be a release that I think a lot of people like. It goes very well with last month's Jetstar A320. I'm going to put this one up in the high flyer. Into the bigger Airbuses, and there are a nice selection of those as well. The first up, we've got 4 Condor A321s. Obviously, Condor have got this kind of windsock-esque new scheme, which is kind of a love it or hate it Marmite kind of style scheme for a lot of people. There have been a decent number of these Condor A321s made recently, mostly by Phoenix. I think there's been one by Gemini as well. The Phoenix ones, they actually look surprisingly nice, but obviously, as you know, Phoenix has got the wrong wing on their A321. but they did turn out quite nicely, and Phoenix made 4 of them as well. NG has made previously 1. They've made DAIAD. This time round we've got AIAC in green, we've got ATCG in red, we've got ATCF in blue, and then we've got DAIAS, which is kind of wearing the half scheme version of this, where it's just got the stripes on the tail. These will go nicely with the previous releases. Obviously they're not completely unique because Phoenix has already been there. Gemini has also made one, as I said, and I think that there's nothing wrong with putting, I'm going to put the 3 fully striped ones into High Flyer. I think they make a nice set. I'm going to put the other one into Workhorse because that's less interesting. It's not a particularly cool scheme with just the stripes on the tail. But I guess if you're really collecting Condor, then you'd probably want all 5 of these models. But hey, 3 in High Flyer and 1 in Workhorse is my call on these ones. Next up, we're into China, which is obviously a collection spot for myself. And we begin with a A321 Neo. It's B1088. It's wearing these colours for Mutai. And as I understand it, Mutai is an alcoholic beverage brand in China. It's a style of Beiju. Not really sure. I think I've looked into this before, what that is. It's a distilled from fermented sorghum. Anyway, obviously a big in China, and this is a special scheme with those details on the front of the aircraft. It's also been announced by Panda Models recently too, so there should be 2 very similar coming out. I actually didn't realise the Panda one was in this scheme, but it does look like it is, judging from the picture. I imagine they're trying to avoid getting any kind of into any trouble with Mutai, the brand. Anyway, it's a nice scheme. I do collect China Airlines, and I'm going to put this one up into Supersonic. The second plane is B1089, so sequentially follows on. It's also an A321 Neo. It's just wearing the standard scheme. There have already been quite a few A321 Neos made by jcwings, and also by Phoenix, and also by Panda. So this is far from new. There have been quite a lot of A321 Neos in this scheme. So for me, this one, not saying or doing anything new. I can understand why they're making it, blah, 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 but it's Workhorse, isn't it? So, hey, I'm trying to get through this quickly. Okay, the last Airbus is an Azul A350. We've obviously talked about that recently because Aviation 400 have also announced one this month as well. This one has got a different registration. It's AOW as opposed to AOY. And yeah, pretty much everything I said about the AV400 version I could say about the NG version. The molds are roughly comparable. I personally think the NG one's slightly better, but it really depends what features you like more. And I'm sure this will turn out to be lovely. AV400 have announced it already though, and it's been made by Phoenix, and jcwings have announced it too. So there's a few around, but this will be at least as good as any of the others. I'm going to put this one up in the High Flyer. Okay, and that brings us around to some baby Boeing. So we're going to start going through the 737s. There's quite a few 737 releases this month. The first one up is a 737-600, and again, just like the A318, it's nice to see a 736 getting a bit of love, the smallest member of that family. NG have made a few recently. Gemini look like they've just released an EG&G one as well, a new mould, but I haven't really got a close look at it, to be honest, but it doesn't look as good from the pictures I've seen. But anyway, regardless, this is an Air China one. Air China has been made previously in 400 scale by Panda Models. This aircraft, the B5037, hasn't been made. Apparently it's the last retired 737-600 from the Air China fleet, if that sort of thing floats your boat. It'll be nice. The mould is good, so I'm sure it'll be nice. It's probably slightly better than the Panda mould. Probably not so good that I feel the need to replace my Panda Models version of this livery though, and I imagine most people couldn't care less about this model. So I'm going to put this one into Workhorse. It's perfectly good, but it's nothing special either. That's the only 736 we have this month. And the next model up moves us into 73G territory with yet another Southwest Airlines release. This one's the Lone Star Texas one. It's wearing the current version of the scheme with the modern tail N931 Whiskey Nelson, or Whiskey November, that should really be, shouldn't it? And there have been some Lone Star ones made already in 400 scale. There have been so much Southwest recently, but this has been made both by Gemini and Panda Models just recently. So it was made by Gemini in 2021. I think it came out as a waffle exclusive for Panda last year, maybe. So this is the third version of this. Obviously it'll be lovely, the mold's good, but it's been made twice before. I imagine most people already have a version of this, and you know, whether it's the Gemini or the Panda. I know which one I think I prefer, but it doesn't really matter too much. I can understand when they're making it again. They're making a lot of Southwest. People obviously like buying them. I'd be more interested if this was wearing the earlier tail, to be honest. But nonetheless, I think it's a workhorse. You know, it's just a workhorse one. Moving north of the border for our next 73G. This time around, it's a WestJet example CFWAQ. It's again not an aircraft which is unique. It has been made previously, but not for some time. Gemini have made two versions of the WestJet 73G, and I think that they are both the same livery. I know WestJet's had a slightly different scheme in recent times. Let me just check that out. No, they are. Yep, they're the same. And so they're both reasonably old, and they're not using the most recent 73G mold, but they're perfectly good models. This one, however, has only ever been made previously before those by Dragon, and that was on an old mold. So there hasn't been a really new mold of this for some time, a new mold version of this, sorry. And I'm going to put this one into high flyer. It's not bad at all. I seem to talk about Pokemon jets rather too much, and the next model is another one, and one that I've talked about already a few times, so I'm not going to talk about it for very long at all. It's TY Air, it's HL8306, it's the same model which has been announced by Phoenix and jcwings. It's got Pokemon on it, it's got a lot of Pokemon on it, but I think Pikachu's at the front. Don't care about that. It's obviously crying out to be workhorse, because even though it will be the best of the three announced versions, it's, you know, a boring airline and Pokemon, and yeah, others have announced it, so that one's going straight into workhorse. But the remaining two 737 NGs I think are more interesting. The first one is N559AS, Alaska Airlines, the Salmon 3 Salmon, the second version of the Salmon 3 Salmon. This one, I think this will look super nice. Really like the fish on the aircraft, and it's only been made by Gemini, but quite a long time ago. It was made by Gemini in 2013, so that's a good 10 years ago. The Gemini version looks really good actually, but this is a better mold, and I think it will look superb. So I think this one is one that tickles my fancy. I'm going to put this one up into supersonic. I'm also going to put the next model up into supersonic too. I shouldn't say it before I talk about it, but it's obvious why it's supersonic. This is Kenya Airways on 737-800. It's so unusual to get modern narrow bodies from airlines in Africa or slightly more obscure places, and it's great to see some Kenya Airways love, because there have only been 8 models made for Kenya Airways in the entire scale. So this is the first time that there's been a Kenya Airways 737. I think it's an excellent choice. 5YCYB is the reg. This one, yeah, has to be supersonic for me. But we've still got some more 737s to discuss. We've got another 4, in fact, and they're all Iceland Air. Obviously, the fact that Iceland Air has the same scheme with just slight differences enables people to produce multiple models, which all almost look the same. A couple have been made by Phoenix recently, 737 9 Maxes or Max 9s, and this one, or these 4, are from NG and cover off those 2 aircraft, but also 2 others in the fleet. So we're getting the TFICA, we're in the boreal blue. We've got TFICB with the green. We've got TFICC with the sky blue, and TFICD with the magenta. And I'm not even going to try and pronounce the aircraft names, because they're all Icelandic and quite difficult to pronounce. Yeah, I'm not an enormous fan of this simplified Iceland Air livery, but I have to say it does look pretty good. He's got 4 of these lined up together. I can imagine these will be a big hit, and Iceland Air is a cool airline, if you excuse the pun. Yeah, I'm going to put these 4 into supersonic as well, actually, because I can see these doing really well, and actually I'm vaguely interested in them myself, and I think they'll look really nice as a full set. And I'd be surprised if many people didn't get multiple of these. If you're buying one, it seems a bit weird, and buying all four seems to make more sense to me. So no, these I think will be really nice. And that ends the 737s for this month. So we are making good progress in this video, I think. We are up to, we're only halfway through though. We're up to model 21, and that is another slam dunk. This one is the sole 747 SP for this month. Yeah, I moan a lot about it being disappointing that NG don't release more SPs, but at least they are still trickling some out here and there. This one is VHEAB. It's wearing the 1980s Qantas scheme, Spirit of Australia titles, the big red tail. And what I always think is the slightly odd-looking kangaroo on the tail in the old version of the scheme. This is going to be an excellent model, obviously. And it's been a long time since anyone has attempted this scheme in 400 scale. I do believe it's been made once before, but it was a long time ago. Yeah, Gemini are the only people who've made this before, which I guess isn't too surprising. 2009, and their version does look quite nice, but this one will be nicer. So really supersonic for this Qantas 747 SP, as I'm sure you all could guess. So now we're into a real sea of 777s. There are a lot of 777 releases this month, and I'll try and get through them, like I say, at pace. The first up, we've got a China Southern Cargo Series 200 B2075. It's wearing the standard scheme with the cheat line and everything. It has been made before by Phoenix some time ago. It's not a model I actually own, and I'm tempted very much to get it. So for me, this one is nice, and I think I will buy it, but it's not so nice that it's going to supersonic. I'm going to put this one up into High Flyer. Next up after that is almost a classic 777, and this time it's the Peter Max. It's the Continental 777-200 N77014, which is wearing that wonderful Peter Max scheme. Really like the scheme. It'll be really interesting to see how this turns out, and I've somehow managed to miss out acquiring any of the earlier versions of this, and it has been made a few times. I think it's been made by Dragon, Gemini, and more recently Phoenix, and I haven't got any of those, so this one is one that's tempting me, even though it's probably a little bit too modern for my Continental fleet. So this one, again, I'm going to put this one in the High Flyer. It's quite exciting, but it has been made before. Next up is an American Airlines Series 200 N751AN. This one is the Azrael Al Blackman version. It's got a little logo on the nose. For 70 years of service, this guy put it in. Don't think he ever missed a sick day somehow, which is super impressive. But I have to say, you know, not being a big AA collector, it doesn't excite me that much. And they made a couple of American Airlines 777s last month. The only real difference in this one is it does have that little 75 and the logo on the nose. Not a big enough change to excite me, really, and I'm going to put this one into Workhorse. Next up, it's Aeromexico N745AM. Nice scheme from, I think, just the dawn of the 2000s here. Again, it's a scheme that's been made previously by wittywings and also by Dragon and also by Gemini, so it's not a new one, but most of the versions are really old and not easy to get your hands on, I would say, and obviously no one's particularly loving the Dragon 777. The Witty one's really hard to find, and I think this one will be nice. Again, it's one that vaguely tempts me, but it's a little too new, I think. I don't think I should be getting it. I'm going to put it into the High Flyer though. It's been made before, but I think it will look really smart and really nice. Okie doke, where are we going next? We are going to Qatar, because we never go there in these videos. I'm not even going to talk about these two. There's a couple of Qatari freighters here. These guys are not exciting me. A7BFZ, A7BFG. One's got the Move By People colours, blah, blah, blah. They're both gas guzzlers. No more Qatar. Stop it, stop it, stop it. And next up, after those, we move back into something a bit more interesting, but only slightly. A trio of British Airways Series 200s. Two of them are wearing the one-wheeled scheme, GYMMR and GYMMU. Not sure why they're making two versions like this, but I guess why not? Surely most people don't need to buy both of those. There has been a one-wheeled BA 777 announced not long ago by Phoenix, so there is an edition that has been announced. These ones probably as good. I don't know if it'll be better. It's hard to tell, but I think it's it's interesting enough that I'll put one of them in high flyer and one of them in workhorse. Basically, is where I'm going with this. The other BA release is GYMMN, and that one is just in the standard Buchanan dockyard colours. That's been made a few times. It's even been made already by NG themselves. Unless they made GVIIY. I'm not sure if the engines are different, but even so, I'm still going to put that one into workhorse because pretty ordinary. And I know there are other BA 777s out there that people would like to see. It wouldn't surprise me if they come along in time. We've still got two more Series 200s. There's a lot of 200s this month. And these are both Air India. So it was only just in the last video for JC that I was talking about the fact that there hadn't been many Air India 777-200 LRs made. And all of a sudden we've got two from NG this month. I missed out in that JC video incidentally. Those aircraft, or the aircraft that was announced there, was non-standard, didn't have the window line. It's leased from Delta or bought from Delta, I'm not sure. And is incomplete. These two are both wearing the full scheme. We've got VT-ALH and VT-ALG. ALG has got the modified tail with Mahatma Gandhi on it. Seem to have been a lot of releases for Mahatma Gandhi tailed Air India recently. Yeah, I'm sure both of these will be really well sought after by people. Like I said last video, there haven't been many Air India 777s in recent times, so these are both good purchases, good choices, and I think they'll be popular. So I'm going to put both of those up into high flyer. Now, the last 777 this month is the only Series 300 ER. It is Aeroflot. The reg is RA73148, and that is where I have the issue with this. It's just like the A320s that NG made not long ago. Usually I don't mind when people make models for regimes or governments that have done bad things, but this is a little too close to home. Obviously, Aeroflot has had to re-register most of its fleet on the Russian register, and I think that we shouldn't be buying these models that have been re-regged. It just feels wrong to me personally. I'm not saying don't buy it, but I'm saying for me personally, I don't like it. If it was a VP-regged one, then I'd be okay with that from before the invasion of Ukraine, but it's not, it's afterwards. I prefer, personally, them not to release these. So I'm going to put this one in the gas guzzler model. I'm sure it'll be lovely, but yeah, I just don't like it personally myself. I would prefer them not to release these and show some solidarity with Ukraine. Okay, all those 777s are past us, which means obviously we're into 787s, because you can't have a month without 787s apparently. Sounds sarcastic, and I guess it was. So the first one up is a Scoot 787-8 9VOFK. That is going to be surprisingly useful, I think. NG have made quite a lot of Scoot recently, and they've all looked very nice. This one's going to fit nicely in. This will be the fourth Scoot they've made, and it hasn't been made by anyone but Phoenix, I believe, and that was a long time ago, and Phoenix didn't really do a very good job on the windows, the cockpit windows, 2016. So there's plenty of scope for another Scoot 787-8, and I'm going to put this one up into high flyer because of that reason. That is the only 8 version we have this month, but we've got a pair of 9s, and the first one we're going to look at is Air Tahiti Nui. I already own an Air Tahiti Nui 787 by NG, and they made another one as well, so this will be the 3rd version that they have made, so that alone tells you that I'm going to put this in workhorse. There's not a lot more to discuss. It'll be nice, it's a lovely scheme, blah blah blah. This is the 3rd version from NG, and it's also been made by Phoenix and Gemini too. And the other 787 is Vietnam Airlines, VNA 868, and I'm told by a good friend that this will be quite popular with the Vietnamese because apparently it's used for Vietnamese government flights. So it's a good choice of reg, it seems. If you're looking at 787-9s for Vietnam, it's been a few years since anyone made one. Gemini looked like they were the last in 2018. Phoenix also made some then too. So this one should fit nicely in and be better, you presume. Looks like they've got the colour okay on their previous 787-10, so don't really see anything wrong with this one at all. I'm going to put this one into high flyer. And that doesn't finish us off with 787s, because there are two 787-10s also in the mix here. The first one up is all Nippon. It is registered JA902A. Yeah, there's not a lot to say here again. All Nippon gets a lot of love in 400 scale. JCwings have made JA901A, and NG Models has made JA901A too, and Phoenix has made JA900A, and so is JCwings. So there have been quite a few 787-10s. Do we need more? I would say no, we don't, but NG disagree clearly. I'm going to put this one to workhorse because, yeah, it's just another one. And the last Boeing here in the standard NG set is Eva Air, the Star Alliance colours. You could hear this one coming a mile away because it's just come out the hangar and it's already been announced by Phoenix. B17812, yet again. It doesn't excite me too much, but it's going to be better than the Phoenix version by some distance. I'm going to put this one in the high flyer. So far, there have only been two announced, and if I had to choose, I'd choose this one over the Phoenix myself. So yeah, high flying is the place, I think, for this model. Okay, so what have we got left over? We've got the remaining three models to discuss. The last NG version, so model 39, is a Saudia TriStar, and this is the only TriStar for this month. It's registered HZAHI. Sure, it's going to be very nice, and I'm almost certainly going to get it. Having said that, we are reasonably well stocked for Saudia TriStars, and I've got a very nice wittywings version from quite a few years ago, I admit, 2013, but it is actually really nice, and it's only marginally inferior to the NG TriStar, so not really. I don't know. I'm not so excited by this as I might be by a TriStar release. So I'm going to put this one up into high flyer, not supersonic, because it has been made before to quality. There's also an Aeroclassics version floating around, but I'm not going to talk about that. And that just leaves me with two models to discuss, and they are the Buchanan models for this month. So we'll have a chat about those next. So Buchanan models. Buchanan are a semi-independent brand associated with NG Models, producing more classic aircraft, mainly from Europe and Canada so far. And so far they've also had quite an eclectic selection of models, quite a few hybrids, and only a couple of full schemes. There was the Air Tour 757, which was a lovely model, for example, that was a full scheme. But otherwise, there have been some hybrids like the Air America TriStar. So this month, we've got more of the same in a sense. We've got their fifth model announcement, which is a Boeing 757. It is, I'd say it's not in the colours of British Midland or BMI as they were called at the time. It's in a hybrid version of their scheme. It's registered GSTRY. It was flown by Australis and leased from them. And when I first saw this, I was like, oh, you know, this isn't really that much cop. But I'm perhaps wrong here. I've actually got the other BMI hybrid 757, which was leased from my Icelandair, and that actually was in service for not very long at all. And when I actually looked up this aircraft, it was actually in service for quite a few years. So, yeah, I'll eat my words, or eat my thoughts, if that's even possible, on this one. It probably is better than I had first believed it would be. Having said that, I still don't really see myself getting it. It's still just a little bit too niche for me and a little bit too late, because I think it was in service around 2008, 2011, something like that. So like a couple of years towards the end of the 2000s, which is too late really for my collection. But nice model anyway. It's really hard to fault anything on the 757 mold, and as you've seen from this video, there weren't any 757s announced this month, which is a real shame. So I'm going to put this one up into high flyer, because it is still going to be a really nice model, even though it doesn't really fit my collection criteria. Also, not fitting my collection criteria, is the other Buchanan release here, but this one is even harder to resist. This one is a Lockheed TriStar TF-ABM, so it's Air Atlanta, Iceland, but it's being leased to Iberia. And when Iberia used to lease things, they typically gave them their full scheme. So we've got a TriStar here wearing a full livery, which is kind of like a fantasy weirdo scheme, because obviously Iberia operated DC-10s. So really will look spectacular. Love this Iberia scheme, and this is going to look wonderful. But yet again, it's just not really core TriStar land, is it? It's a really niche TriStar. Iberia are hardly, you know, an iconic TriStar operator, and there are plenty of TriStars that could be made. So I think I'm going to put this one into high flyer as well. I am tempted by this one, but I really don't have anywhere to put it. And it is, again, a bit too late for my collection, because I think this was on lease to Iberia in the late 90s. So yeah, they're both interesting choices, and in many ways a lot more interesting than a lot of the NG selections, but at the same time, neither of them quite hit the nail on the head for me. And that is 41 models that we've gone through in this video. I apologise that it's probably been quite light on detail, but nonetheless we've got there, and it is a nice selection. NG are producing something for everyone, I feel, each month. It's just that often they're not producing much in the way of classics, but there's plenty of meat here, and interest across a wide range, both geographically. Not quite so much, I guess, in terms of types, but then again, there's more diversity than is being promised by Gemini in those 400 announcements. So yeah, it's another good set overall. Just would like to see some more SPs and TriStars myself. Okay guys, well, hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm not sure what that will be on, so keep an eye out. I'm sure there'll be one coming soon, and obviously check me out on my other channels because I post there most days. Thanks very much. That's it from now. Bye.